say, when they get past, say, what are you worried about, what keeps you up at night? They say, well, cash flow management is always kind of something front of mind. What's the second thing? And it usually goes to people around, finding them, hiring, training, retaining them. Any best practices that you can share with the group on, hey, when you're thinking about talent and people, here's some things that have worked well with you.
Passion, number one. We gotta have the desire to do what we do, and also loyalty. And another person that I have to thank is Carson Lepp, who's my licensing agent. He came in and he was a shop manager for a few years, but he's the one that has watched out for us and taken care of a lot of things. He's my licensing agent, and the way that we run our business is, when I grew up with my father, doing crash work and insurance work and custom car work, you get paid for what you're doing at the time that you're doing it. You bill your customers for that work. If it's crash work, you bill your customers for that. When I went to work for Osher Corporation, what we did there was develop patentable ideas for the automotive industry, and then those were licensed off. And one of the ideas I had come up while I was there was, back in the 80s, when you had your garage door opener for a car, this is just a plastic box with a spring clip that was always hung on the visor. And I had the idea to integrate that into the car system. That was patentable, we developed it, and we licensed that, or actually we sold that idea to Prince Corporation in Holland, Michigan, which is now Johnson Controls. Well, I was making $16 an hour there, but they sold that for millions of dollars. And I hadn't told you that I had gone halfway through Art Center and then ended up working at Osher Corporation. They wanted me to become director of design, and I said that I wanted my degree because I had been dating my wife for about a year and a half, and the subject of marriage came up one night, and she says, well, I'm not going to marry you. I said, then what are we doing together? She says, well, you have potential. What does that mean? Well, she had graduated from UCSB, University of California, Santa Barbara. And she says, I have a college degree, and I want my husband to have a college degree. So I knew I needed to get back to Art Center. Well, Prince Corporation, who had bought that idea for the garage door opener, they were trying to hire me away from them. So I called them up, and they gave me a great offer, and I thought, well, with this offer, I can go work with them for about 3 years and save enough money to get back to Art Center and pay for my education. So I accepted their offer, and I went and told my boss that I was leaving. And he asked me why. I told him the whole story. He says, I'll send you to school now. I'll pay for it. And you give me 3 years after you graduate. So I was back at school a month later. When I graduated, I came back to Santa Barbara, working at Osher Corporation. Ended up marrying Lynn. And
worked out pretty well.
It worked out real well. But about 3 months later, freshly married and living in Santa Barbara, my boss came to me and told me that when I was finished with the project that I was on, he was going to have nothing for me for about 6 months because he was waiting for a big project to come in from China. So he asked me if I could bring in, at that time, I think I mentioned that I had worked for Boyd Coddington for 2.5 years as a side job. And he asked me if I could start bringing in Boyd's work and billing Boyd for the work that I was doing while we waited for this job to come in from China. And I said, well, I would love to do that, but unfortunately, what I do for Boyd is just a hobby. I had worked with him for probably 30 to 50 hours a week for 2.5 years and never gave him a bill. It was just my hobby. I loved what I was doing, and the fact that what I was doing was going into production and cars were being built. So I said, that's not going to work. And my boss says, well, is there something you can go do for 6 months while we wait for this? Andy Jacobson from Ford Motor Company, I called him up. He was the director of design for the truck studio. He asked me to come in and do a sketch program. That's when I met David, who built or balanced his pencil sharpener. I ended up going to Ford, working with them, had left and gone back to Asha, and Andy had made me the offer to come back and work for 6 months on another project. Well, Jay Mays, who was the director of design for Volkswagen at the time, heard that I was going to Ford and called me up. He says, I heard you're going to Ford. And I said, yeah, it's only for 6 months. I'm going to do the sketch program with them, and not sure, what's gonna happen after that, but I think I'll be back at Osh Corporation in Santa Barbara. He says, well, I've got another project that I'm gonna do, and I would love to bring you in on it. He had seen my portfolio at Art Center when I graduated, and I had done a project that became the Plymouth Prowler for Chrysler. And when he saw that, it just inspired him to do some vintage vehicles, which we'll get to in a minute. But he said that he was going to redo the Volkswagen Beetle, and he wanted me in on that project. And I thought, wow, that could be really cool. So I was deciding whether I'd go to Ford or Volkswagen, and I decided I needed to call Boyd, let him know exactly what was going on. So I called up Boyd and told him that it looked like I was going to be going either to Detroit or Germany. My wife wasn't too happy about that because we were only married about 3 or 4 months at the time. But I said, we're going to pack it up and leave. And I let Boyd know, and he made me a better offer than both Ford and Volkswagen. I thought, wow, that's incredible. And that's how I ended up there. But enjoyed that project. Went back and told my boss what the offer that I had was just to run down to LA and work down there for 6 months and come back. And he says, okay, get with human resources and finalize everything and we'll go forward. So I went down to human resources and they said, well, you still owe 6 months on paying back your education. I said, well, if I got to pay for it, then I don't have to come back. And it turned out actually they owed me 7 weeks of vacation that I had never taken. And they owed me more money than I owed them.
Yeah.
But I just said, well, just keep it, it's a wash. And if I want to come back, I'm welcome to come back. But I ended up going down to Boyd's, and that was just a dream come true job. And never ended up going back to Santa Barbara, and ended up being here. But as far as finding the people, it's that passion for what you're doing. Every decision I've made in my business has been passion driven, not logic. If it's something that I really truly want to do, then I jump in on it. And talk to my wife. When we were considering bringing Carson in, Carson had the same passion that I have for cars. And he was one of my best friends. Still is. And I knew that it would work well. Talked to my wife about it. She said, yeah, let's call him. I called him, and the first words he said to me, he says, when I asked him, he says, I'm so glad you asked me that because I'm sitting here at my desk thinking I need to get out of here. He was working for another licensing agency, and we hired him right there. He came in, and he was probably the best person that we had ever brought in. Now, some of the guys that I've got in the shop were guys that I worked with while I was at Boyd's. And when Boyd's went bankrupt in 1998, didn't know exactly what I was going to do, but I went home and started a business out of my back bedroom and had one car in the garage that I was working on. And I slowly ended up opening a shop, and I knew the guys that had the same passion that I had for cars that I worked with at Boyd's. And one phone call telling them that I was wanting to start a shop, that spread like wildfire, and all the guys were calling me saying they wanted to come and work with me. But I said I can only bring in a couple guys, and I ended up bringing in the guys that I knew had the same passion I did to build cars. So for me, it's that dedication and desire to build the best.
Shared passion, quality. We hear that a lot.